throne without a name, the people now to die for. Show me a crown without a leader in its jewels. I reject your fate decided by the people. Scream about your head and say your piece before you.
Hi everyone, welcome to PW. So as we have discussed in our previous lecture, so if you would have said yes in the comments, then I would come up with a series for PYQ. So here we are. I'm going to have 4 lectures on each part which is important for prelims. We'll start with modern India. Now, first of all, which is very important, please make sure that do you understand the reasoning behind these PYQs. Just learning the answers is not enough, because when we just read the answers and cram them, that does not help in the final exam. One more important thing which all of you need to understand, the way questions used to be asked previously, last 10 years, 15 years ago, UPSC is not asking questions in the same manner. Information is relevant, but the way they are asking questions has changed specifically. So you have to always understand that the kind of questions which are coming today, that's how you have to reprocess the whole information of PYQs. Now we'll be discussing all of these PYQs of modern India since 2011. More importantly, I'm going to go theme wise. Okay, we're going to go theme wise, and in every question I will try to give my input, how you can develop reasoning for your own. The last 40 days you should try your level best to develop this reasoning part in all the subjects, history, polity, economy, everywhere, so that you can get the maximum output in your final exam on 25th of May. Let us begin. The first theme that we have is the advent of Europeans in India. This has been one of the most favorite theme of UPSC. They're asking questions from here at, I think, every year. Okay, every year they're asking questions from here. Now let us see this first question. Okay, please see this. The first question is about the arrival of Europeans. All powers they have asked, except the Portuguese. First statement is about Dutch. They say the Dutch established their factory warehouses on the east coast on lands granted to them by the Gajapati rulers. So this theme, okay, the first theme here, one challenge is your medieval and your modern. Okay, the intersection is where the question will be asked. The Gajapati rulers, they were the one ruling in the area of Odisha. They were not ruling in the areas which were under the control of the Dutch. So the largely the friendship that they developed with the Golconda was responsible for getting the maximum territories. The Dutch established the territories. In fact, with Golconda, they had a very good relationship. Initially, they were paying 4% duties. Later on, they came up with the lump sum idea that we will give you 3,000 pagodas every year and we can have as much export and import as much as required. Later on, they also got the royal monopoly to even mint the coins. So please try to understand these basic ideas. Remember some of the places where Dutch established their factories. Okay, one of the area where they established their factory is Pulicat. Right, Pulicat is one of the most important region where they created Fort Geladria. The first statement becomes incorrect because of this. Second, Alfonso de Albuquerque captured Goa from Bijapur Sultanate. This is correct. Okay, so this is correct, the second statement, in 1510. And third, East India Company established a factory at Madras. All of you know that Madras was the first province to be developed. Around 1639 they were able to do this, and here they got it from the representative of Vijayanagar Empire. To understand this, you should have little bit understanding that Vijayanagar Empire used to have Nayaks, and one of these Nayaks gave this area to the British. Okay, so the third statement is also correct. Even though if you see this question, the way they have framed the options, it is a little bit easy, because once you see the first statement is incorrect, the answer can be only one, and that is 2 and 3. So B would be the answer, but please develop reasoning. Do not cram the answers of these PYQs. Trust me, it's not going to be helpful in the exam. Information, yes, you can remember the information, that will be helpful. Plus, try to understand how the new kind of questions can come, because largely now they're asking only 1, 2, 3 or none, like this the options are coming. So it's a bit difficult. In this question you can get the answer by just eliminating the first one, but in these kinds of options it will be very difficult, because you should know about second also, you should know about the third also. So elimination has become very difficult because of this. So please try to remember this, okay, and hopefully you will get very good marks. We will follow all these themes, and my focus would be on reasoning. so that you can get the maximum output from this session. So the answer in this case is going to become B. Second, now this is a kind of question which is bound to come multiple times. Okay, which are the initial settlements which were that related to the British? So they asked in the first quarter of the 17th century. So please always understand the instructions. The 17th century is 1600 to 1625. The first quarter we are discussing about, in which of the following were the factories of East India Company located? Now three options have been given. Okay, if you see the area of Gujarat, the first factory they established, it was at Surat, and then they established factory at Ahmedabad, they established factory at Bharuch. So Bharuch is going to be one of the option because by 1620 all these settlements were created. On the other hand, if we talk about Chichikol, now Chichikol is the recent name that we use in Andhra Pradesh. It is Srikakulam. So at Srikakulam, British did not establish any factory during this period. In fact, it was Masolipatnam where they had established their factory. So you should have developed these logics on the basis of which you can be very sure in the paper. Otherwise, what will happen? You will always be thinking, I'm doing 50-50, I'm doing something else. No, you have to have this reasoning which could be very useful. Trichinopoli. Now at Trichinopoli, you would not have learned any site in your NCRT also, or even from the spectrum if you have read it. This is the place which was going to be prominent during the Carnatic Wars. Okay, during the Second Carnatic War, all of us know that the siege of this Trichinopoli was done by Chanda Sahib, and later on Robert Clive played the counter move. He went and seized the Arcot. Trichinopoli is linked to that part, right? It is not linked to British as such. The third statement also becomes negative. So in this question, the answer is going to become 1 only. But such kind of questions are very memory based. If you can memorize the facts, naturally you will get very good marks. If you cannot memorize the fact, it will be difficult to solve, because here any other reasoning will not work. And please try to remember these initial settlements of Portuguese, Dutch, English and French. These four are very, very important. This is my recommendation, because in the future, it's not possible that they will ask the similar question. Same kind of question can come, but the exact same question, it's very difficult to say so. Second thing that we need to remember is about British expansion. Okay, so whatever steps have been taken by them for the expansion in India, on that also UPSC has asked some questions, and let us try to understand it. The first question that we have is about a famous system known as subsidiary alliance system, and this system was established by Lord Wellesley. Please remember the idea of subsidiary alliance. Okay, some of the provisions which eventually were part of this alliance system, they were created by Dupleix during the Carnatic Wars, and on the basis of his ideas, eventually the British learned and they created this subsidiary alliance system. So they have asked which of the following does not apply, okay, to the system of subsidiary alliance. So we have to identify the negative ones, okay, something which is not applicable. The first one, to maintain a large standing army at the expense of others. Yes, the first statement is correct. Number two, to keep India safe from Napoleonic danger. This is also correct, but how you going to remember that? Because Lord Wellesley, he came to India in 1798. The rise of Napoleon coexist with this. In fact, the downfall of Napoleon will come in 1815 when he will get defeated in the Battle of Waterloo. Second statement is absolutely correct. In fact, he was trying to come towards Egypt. That campaign did not succeed, but there was a real danger that Napoleon could come towards India. The second statement is absolutely correct. Third, to secure a fixed income for the company. Now, the fixed income for the company they were trying to create through permanent settlement. Permanent settlement was introduced in 1793. Okay, it was introduced in 1793, and that was responsible for the creation of fixed income. Okay, so it has no relationship with subsidiary alliance. Yes, in some cases the native state had the option to pay money, but effectively what was there, that in every case money was not there. So we cannot say a secure income. To get some income, it's fine, but secure income, no, it was not there. The last option, to establish British paramountcy over the Indian states. So the last statement is absolutely correct. right? Because this was the major motive, that none of the Indian states should be able to challenge the British and they should be under the control of the British. So the fourth statement is correct. Third is not the correct one. So answer will become C. Okay, so this question answer is C, and please understand the reasoning part. The more and more methodological you will become, it will become very easy for you to get the right answers. These are the strategies which I also utilize to get very good marks in prelims, and please follow them, learn them, and try to identify the good kind of logics, okay, which could be utilized in the papers. Please see the next one. In this theme, we're going to discuss about the areas of peasant and the tribals. Okay, so please see this. Indigo cultivation declined by the beginning of 20th century. Why did the indigo cultivation decline in the 20th century? All of us know that indigo has been a highlight during our freedom struggle, right? We have this indigo rebellion of 1859-60. Then we also have Champaran Satyagraha. So these two events are directly linked to the indigo. Initially, indigo plantation was more towards the Bengal. After the rebellion of 1859-60, it shifted towards Champaran. It shifted towards the Bihar region. Okay, so now let us now to understand that what was the factor responsible for its decline by the 20th century. The first statement says peasant resistance to the oppressive conduct of planters. To some percentage it is correct, but it may not be the final answer. So let us understand the second statement. Its unprofitability in the world market because of new inventions. Second statement makes more sense. All of you know that Germans came out with synthetic dyes, and these synthetic dyes now did not require indigo, right? So the demand for indigo went completely down, because just by a peasant resistance, planters would not have left behind a very profitable venture, and now the venture itself was not useful because of the coming of German synthetic dyes. That's why second looks like a very probable, but still in such kind of question where four choices are given, please read all four choices. Sometimes you get even a broader kind of a choice in the later two statements. National leaders' opposition to cultivation of indigo. So we do see, we find the Champaran Satyagraha, but that cannot be the only one, right? Economic things, they work on the forces of supply and demand. It's not about Indian leaders, because planters would not leave profit just because of few national leaders. And the last one, government control over the planters, which doesn't make any sense. In fact, all the laws which were created by the British government, they were for the benefit of these planters, right? The D is absolutely incorrect. It has no sense. But the most authentic answer is going to be B. This is a classic question which shows us that there is possibility of getting wrong answer. Why? Because A, B and C, all three make some level of sense, but the most important one among them is the answer B. So please, in such kind of questions, do not do mistake, and please be very clear. That's why having a conceptual clarity is very important. Next question is very easy. With reference to history of India, Ulgulu or the Great Tumult is a description of which of the following event, right? Now the Ulgulan, the word, it is purely linked to which one? Birsa Munda's revolt of 1899-1900, right? So this is the time period which we have to remember, and it is Birsa Munda who is responsible for this, and the word Ulgulan is linked to them. Similarly, Santhals, the word used for them is Hul, right? It is known as Santhals Hul. So you can remember this word for the Santhals. Like suppose if in the future they ask you this kind of questions, but at least you will get a good answers. Whenever you read previous year questions, please do two things. Number one, think of what other kind of question can come in the same theme. Number one. Number two, see the options like Mapila Rebellion, Indigo Revolt, 57, right? And the Munda Revolt. Next time a question can come on these options which are not asked in this year. So this is how UPSC behaves. This is how UPSC use the previous year questions in order to create their own next line of questions. That's the most important thing which you can read from these previous year questions. Next, now this was a tough question when it came in 2018. The question was with respect to Santhal uprising and what was its outcome. You should always try to understand the outcome of these various revolts and rebellions. So see the first statement, territories called Santhal Parganas were created. This is the first statement, right? This is the first statement after what happened after the Santhal revolt of 1855-1856. So what happened as a result of this? Number one, yes, this is correct. The British created a separate Santhal Parganas. Why? Because their culture was required to be protected. Otherwise, they could have revolted multiple times. And second, what was the basic grievance of the Santhals? The basic grievance of Santhal that their land was confiscated by the outsiders. Right? The British introduced capitalistic system in which zamindar, moneylenders, and even the British themselves together were responsible for the exploitation of Santhals. There was a very famous report which came in Calcutta Review in 1843-1844, which said that the Santhals are living in debt even after selling their land, after selling their wives, after selling their children. These people are living in debt, and that's why the British did nothing for them. And within the next 10 years, you see one of the biggest revolt, and this is the most successful tribal revolt which has happened in India. Okay, remember that distinction. Second, it became illegal for a Santhal to transfer land to a non-Santhal. This is also correct. You must have seen that there are so many tribal areas in India where you cannot purchase land, right? So from where do we see the beginning of these laws? These laws came from these kinds of movements. These kinds of revolts have been responsible for even directing some of the policies that we have in our current state also. The second statement is also correct. So in this case, the answer is going to become C, both 1 and 2. Now a similar kind of question can come for the Munda rebellion also. What was the impact of Munda rebellion? So there also you have to remember the British had came out with a Tenancy Act, okay, and number 2, in their area also selling the land from a Munda to a non-Munda was now made illegal. So please, same kind of theme, okay, and UPSC can ask you this question. So please, whenever you revise, तो उस पे ध्यान दीजिएगा. Next, in this question, demand for the Tibhaga movement in Bengal was. So Tibhaga movement. So what was this about? The Tibhaga movement was this. This was a demand of sharecroppers. Normally there used to be a division. Whatever would be the produce, half would go to sharecropper. So in this case, the sharecropper were known as Bargadars. Okay, and half would go to the landlord. And many a time they were known as jotedars. Alright, so these Bargadars said that we will not give you half share, right? We will give you only 1/3. So they wanted a review from half and half to 2/3 they would keep, and 1/3 they would give to the jotedar. Plus there was one more demand other than the share, that they would keep the produce in their own warehouses or own godowns, because these landlords, what they used to do, these landlords used to do some kind of cheating, and some of the produce was siphoned off before it was divided. That's why they wanted absolute integrity in this case. All right, so it's very, very important. So Bargadar. All right, so in this question, the reduction of the share of landlord from half to 1/3, this is correct. In fact, there was one commission which was created, Floud Commission. Okay, and this Floud Commission also gave the same representation. Okay, it gave the same recommendation that the share of the Bargadar should be increased from half to 2/3, and the same demand was put forward by them. The grant of ownership of land to peasant as they were the actual cultivator, no, nothing like that. Third, the uprooting of zamindari system, no. Writing of all peasant debt doesn't make sense, right? So in this case, only one option makes sense, and that is the first one. But again, UPSC is now not making such kind of question which only one question, one statement looks correct and the rest are absolutely incorrect. They are making statements which are very close to each other, like we have just seen in the question of the Indigo one. So you, all of you, need to remember this, that these kinds of questions you can solve, you can feel happy also, but exactly same kind of drafting of questions is now not happening. You should process the information which is in these PYQs as per the latest current trend, and that's how you have to remember the challenge for yourself. Okay, it should not be that I was able to solve all the PYQs and why is the problem coming in the final exam. The problem will come if you will not process the information as per the current trend. Yes, the way they are asking questions right now, the choices have become hard. Okay, that's why previously the cutoff used to be higher. The cutoff used to be higher, like since 2017 UPSC has not given a very easy paper. Last time it was in 2017, in which the cutoff was around 1006 or 1007, 106, 107. But after that, you see the cutoff has been only 98 or below that. And the least we have seen in 2023, hardly 75 marks, right? So please remember this. Next, now this is a very classic question. This came in 2011, but this is a type of question which can come now also. The question is asking which amongst the following provided a common factor for tribal insurrection in India in the 19th century. Okay, so this is the question which has come, and they have given 4 choices, and all the 4 choices have some element of truth. None of the statement can be completely taken down. So see the first statement. Introduction of new system of land revenue and taxation of tribal products. So to some extent this statement is correct. See the second one. Influence of foreign religious missionary in tribal areas. That was also there. Number 3. Rise of a large number of moneylenders, traders and revenue farmers as middlemen in the tribal area. The third one is also correct. See the fourth one. Complete disruption. Now this is the most comprehensive statement among these 4. The complete disruption of the old agrarian order of the tribal communities. The last one is the one which is the most prominent one, and this gives a better idea why the complete disruption happened. Because the British came out with forest laws. They divided the forest into 2 parts, reserved and protected. In the reserved areas, they banned slash and burn agriculture or shifting agriculture. So that started affecting the complete agrarian order of the tribals, and that made their life miserable. And in fact, because of this, okay, and whatever land that they were having, that was confiscated by these moneylenders or the landlords which came in these areas. The fourth statement is the most comprehensive one, because the above 3, they are talking about only one aspect, like new kind of land revenue system or Christian missionaries or the role of the middlemen. The last one is talking about a comprehensive one. So whenever such kind of questions come, please read all the options carefully. Otherwise, what will happen in hurry, you're going to mark A or B and you'll feel satisfied. Yes, this was this, I have read this. But all 4 were there. The fourth one is the most comprehensive. So this is how you develop reasoning. This is how you learn the ideas which can help you in the final examination. Now let us take some questions of socio-religious movement. Okay, now please see, and this was a question which came in 2020, a very difficult question. Till that point of time, nobody was very aware about it, but now everybody knows about it. Rakhmabai case of 1884. Now this was a case, okay, which was about her. She didn't want to stay married to the person she was married to during her early childhood, while on the other hand, her husband was asking for the conjugal rights, right? Because even if you get married at a very early age, you cannot have sexual relationship, right, till a specific time period. So this was the classic case which happened during the time of 19th century. So was it linked to education? No, this case was not linked to education. This was linked to age of consent, and this was linked to restitution of conjugal rights. This was a very famous case, okay, Rakhmabai case. So you can remember it, and this case the answer is going to become 2 and 3. Okay, the first statement is not correct. Then this is a very easy question. Satyashodhak Samaj organized, right? So what was this Satyashodhak Samaj? This has been in news also. Okay, a movie is coming on this. So please remember, this is a very important topic for this year, and UPSC may make a broader question, not like an easy question like this. So here you can get the answer just by saying the state, because it was in Maharashtra. It was not in Bihar, Gujarat or Punjab. It was in Maharashtra. It was an anti-caste movement in Maharashtra. That's all of us know about, right? Jyotiba Phule was the person responsible for this, along with his wife Savitribai Phule. Then next question. This question is about Keshav Chandra Sen. Okay, so Keshav Chandra Sen, one of the famous reformer from Bengal. During the initial phase, he was very famous. He was responsible for taking the Brahma Samaj to different parts of India. But during the later times, he also became controversial because he got his daughter married to the Raja of Kuch Bihar. So that eventually created a schism and a division among the Brahma Samaj. Now the question is asking which of the following organization is associated with Keshav Chandra Sen. So the Tabernacle of New Dispensation, yes, he was a believer. in merging the ideas of Hinduism and that of Christianity. That's one something he created, yes. Second, he was also associated with Indian Reforms Association. So that is also there. The first one, okay, Calcutta Unitarian Committee. This is linked to Raja Ram Mohan Roy. This is not linked to Keshav Chandra Sen. This is only linked to the Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The second and third are correct. Now this is very, very factual. Okay, the answer is going to become B. The question is very, very factual, and all of you should remember that such kind of questions can come, because such questions will always remain difficult. Why? Many of these, like if you read in CRT, you will not find mentioning of Calcutta Unitarian Committee, Indian Reform Association. वो नहीं मिलेगा आपको, right? So that's why what you should do, you should remember these kinds of information from the previous year questions, and they may help you in any kind of elimination in the future. So please remember this. This is very, very important. Answer will become B. Next, now they asked a question about the National Social Conference, right? Why did the National Social Conference was formed in general? So try to remember, right, that Congress was founded in 1885. One of the major thing which is linked to the initial Congress meetings was that they didn't talk about social reforms. Why? They didn't talk about social reforms because social reforms were linked to religion, and religion could have been a very divisive force during the early age of the Congress. That's why they avoided it, and to make sure that still the social reforms are done, they created one more conference, and that is known as National Social Conference. That is something which is going to be the answer. So please read the B option. Indian National Congress didn't want to include social reforms in its deliberation and decided to form a separate body for such a purpose. So that's what National Social Conference was all about. So here the answer is going to become B. Please remember this. Okay, this is also a less known area for the most of the candidates. Please see the next question. Now this question is about the basic ideas of Brahma Samaj, right? So UPSC often confuses you between the ideas of Brahma Samaj, Arya Samaj, Pratna Samaj, some of them. So you should have a chart, okay, knowing what is common between them and what are the differences between them and what are the core ideas, right? So please see here. Number one, it opposed idolatry. Yes, that's first statement is correct. Second statement, let us try to understand it. It denied the need for a priestly class for interpreting the religious text. That is also correct. In fact, Raja Ram Mohan Roy himself has translated the text from Sanskrit to Bengali so that everybody could have access to Vedas. The second statement is absolutely correct. So always give yourself a reason. Always give yourself an example which can justify the statement, and that's the most important thing. The more and more justification comes in your head, the better will be your conviction. Number three, it popularized the doctrine that Vedas are infallible. Now sometimes it's like the word. What is the meaning of the word infallible? So you can always see that the Hindi text is always with that. So if sometimes you find it difficult, so infallible means that there is no chance of anything being wrong in this. So this idea is linked to Arya Samaj. All of you know Swami Dayananda said go back to Vedas. So Arya Samaj is something which is linked to this kind of ideology. It is not linked to Brahma Samaj. In Brahma Samaj, it was accepted that human rationality should be given more priority over the text, because in scriptures which were written thousands of years ago, there are very high chances of being something wrong or something which was not, you can say, compatible with the modern idea. The third statement becomes incorrect. The first two are correct. Answer will become B, 1 and 2. So please solve these questions, okay, with this kind of a mission that I will learn a lot. I will learn a lot, okay, that you will be able to identify the areas which are important for the examination also, because important topic list can be prepared on the basis of PYQ, plus the reasoning part. Develop reasoning. Reasoning is the most important thing. And whenever you do 50-50, so that 50-50 or that idea should be that you should be able to understand that which is one is looking more correct and on what basis, and that's what you can apply in these previous year questions. Next, they've asked question about Ghadar party, and they've asked which of the following were actively associated with Ghadar party. If we see here, Barinder Kumar Ghosh, Jogesh Chandra Chatterjee, Raj Kumari Bose, right? So Raj Bihari Bose, he was the one who was linked with this Ghadar party. The rest, they were linked with different association, like Barinder Kumar Ghosh, he was linked with Yugantar. Yogesh Chandra Chatterjee, he was linked with Hindustan Republican Association. Now these are the kind of questions which are purely factual. You cannot do these questions without remembering the facts. Please try to remember the names in your final revision. This question is a latest trend specific question 2022. So it is my humble request that please do this carefully. Okay, remember the names of these revolutionaries. Such kind of questions can come this year also. The answer in this case is going to become D3 only. Alright, so please remember the names. Next, a broader question about Swadeshi movement. Now, Swadeshi movement, UPSC has asked lot of questions over a period of time and multiple type of questions. Now, this is more about, there is one specific phase of Swadeshi movement which is known as constructive Swadeshi. Okay, constructive Swadeshi. This phase of Swadeshi movement was more or less linked to Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore was the one who was leading this phase of constructive Swadeshi. We were trying to revive our culture. We were trying to show British that we do not need them. In fact, the major aim of this constructive Swadeshi was to project that the Indians were self-reliance. Okay, so let us see the statements now. First, it contributed to the revival of indigenous artisan crafts and industries, 100% correct. National Council of Education was established as a part of the Swadeshi movement. Second statement is also correct. Both are correct. Now, these are the kind of questions which become relatively more difficult for the students who are reading just at the surface level. What is the, why did the Swadeshi movement started? But the character of the movement has been asked here, right? The character of the movement changes with the changing leadership. Like first it was led by the moderates, then we see the trend of constructive Swadeshi or the self-reliance type. Okay, after constructive Swadeshi, the next trend was that of the extremist, and the last trend in the Swadeshi movement is that of revolutionary extremist. Okay, so please always remember the character of the movement. If you'll remember, because we hardly have these 4 or 5 movements like Swadeshi movement, Home Rule movement, then you can remember about Rowlatt Satyagraha also, non-cooperation movement. You can remember about the demonstration at the time of Simon Commission, then civil disobedience movement, then finally your individual Satyagraha and the Quit India movement. So these are some of the prominent types of movements or the Satyagrahas which we had seen during the time of the various Indian leaders, and UPSC can ask you questions like this time and again. Next time the question could be on civil disobedience movement or Quit India movement. They are the prominent ones, so please remember them. Here the answer will become C. Next, if we see the next question, this is about Champaran Satyagraha. Now this is also linked to the question which we were discussing before, the decline of Indigo, right? Champaran Satyagraha. So what was the significant part of this Champaran Satyagraha? Number one, active all India participation of lawyers, students, women in Indian national movement. So this is more linked to non-cooperation movement rather than Champaran. The first statement is linked to non-cooperation movement. So why I'm writing this non-cooperation movement? So that you don't just cram the answer of this question. Why? Because just cramming few answers will not give you the result. You have to be thoughtful, and whenever you read something, you should be able to link it to some part of the history. And if you remember it just like that, it's going to be very useful. Like suppose if next time they ask a question, which of the following thing happened during the non-cooperation movement? This is the first statement, right? Will we say yes, this is correct. This was also part of PYQ. This is how you should prepare. You should not prepare mindlessly. That is not going to give you anything extra. Second, active involvement of Dalit and tribal communities of India in the national movement. Now, this is also not that much correct, right? This is not that much correct. In fact, this statement is more applicable to civil disobedience movement. Like there we see participation of Dalit as well as tribal communities. Joining of peasant unrest to India's national struggle. This looks absolutely fine. Drastic decrease in the cultivation of plantation crops and commercial crops. Right? Can you see somehow they are always trying to link it to the theme, and somehow they wanted that you should do some mistake. The fourth one is not directly linked here, as we have discussed, that is more linked to the invention of German synthetic dyes rather than just the Champaran Satyagraha. So here the answer is going to become C. C is the correct answer. After this, we'll see the creation of Kisan Sabhas, and then by the 1930s, we'll see the maturing of the peasant movement, and they will become an integral part of these movements. Okay, the freedom struggle itself. Next, which of the following is the reason for the split in Indian National Congress at Surat in 1907? All of you know that there was a split between the moderate and the extremist at Surat in 1907, right? Let us see the major reason for that. Introduction of communalism into the Indian politics by Lord Minto. So now that is not something which is correct, right? Second, extremist lack of faith in the capacity of the moderates to negotiate with the British government. Second statement has merit. Why? Because the partition of Bengal, okay, the partition of Bengal, the idea was revolving for a very long time. In 1903, they were more or less very close to, yes, we will partition Bengal. At that time, moderates sent their petitions that this should not be done, right? But the British did not listen. In 1905, Bengal was partitioned. So the moderate were not able to have any kind of bargain with the British government, specifically in such important issues. The second statement has a merit. Foundation of Muslim League, it has nothing to do with this. And number D, Arvind Ghosh inability to be elected as the president of the Indian National Congress. That is also not correct. So in this case, the answer will become B. Okay, so always choose the option which is more comprehensive, which is directly linked to what is the instruction given in the question, rather than just being truth, right? Like the Surat split happened in 1907, Muslim League was formed in 1906. Conceptually, if you see, it has no linkages, but if you see just chronology, you will see, okay, it happened, but is it linked to the question? Is it what the question is asking? No. Next question. Swadeshi and boycott were adopted as a method for the first time during, all of you know, the agitation against the partition of Bengal. Home rule, non-cooperation, visit of Simon Commission, those came later on. Okay, it was there, but they have asked for the first time. The most important keyword is first time. Next, please see this one. Okay, which one of the following movement has contributed to a split in the Indian National Congress, resulting in the emergence of moderate and extremists? The answer is going to be Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement was started in 1905. By 1906, the moderate and the extremist, they were fighting to become the president. Okay, somehow the split was stopped, but this eventually happened in 1907. So this played a very important role in the final split between the moderate and extremist. And why did it happen? Because the moderate wanted to keep this Swadeshi movement only to Bengal. The extremist wanted to take to all parts of India. This became the reason for the final split, and the methods of moderate and extremists were also not matching. That's why the answer here is going to become A. Very easy, but always remember the reasoning behind it. That makes it easy for all of us. Now, this was again one more question linked to the same theme. The partition of Bengal made by Lord Curzon lasted until, so when, until which time did it last? So all of you know that this was finally annulled in 1911, and King George V, he was the one who abrogated the act as the Royal Darbar in Delhi. Okay, the answer for this is going to become B. This is very much linked to this. Again, the question is on the Gadar. So all of you know what was Gadar. So Gadar, it was a patrika, it was an organization, a revolutionary association of Indians with headquarters at San Francisco. So the answer will become A. In such kind of easy questions, you will know directly, right, what is the answer. Next, what was the reason for Mahatma Gandhi to organize a satyagraha on behalf of peasants of Kheda? All of you know Gandhiji had multiple experiments, right? The first one, it was the part of the Champaran. Second, it was Ahmedabad mill strike. In Ahmedabad mill strike, he used the hunger strike for the first time. And the next one, just after that, it was the Kheda Satyagraha. The Kheda Satyagraha, the major reason was that the peasants, okay, they were applying to the British government that they should have remission. There was a drought in the region, and thereafter they were not required to pay revenue. But the government was using forcible means, and these forcible means were utilized in order to collect maximum revenue. So that's why this satyagraha was started. The administration did not suspend the land revenue collection in spite of a drought. First statement is absolutely correct. In fact, the government started confiscating the property, okay, of the peasant, and that's why the satyagraha was started. The first statement is correct. Second, the administration proposed to introduce permanent settlement in Gujarat. So this has no bearing. This is just a unnecessary level of a statement which is added here. The second statement is incorrect. First is 100% correct. Answer here will become A. After this satyagraha, government finally woke up and they accepted that we are now not going to collect any of the revenue, and that was suspended for the year. Now the second phase of national movement, okay. So in 1920, which of the following changed its name to Swarajya Sabha? Okay, so which of the following changed its name to Swarajya Sabha? So in 1920, this change, it was done by Gandhiji. Gandhiji changed the organization of All India Home Rule League. The All India Home Rule League, this was the league which was responsible for launching the movement in 1916, right? One by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, the other by Annie Besant. But when Gandhiji became a member of this, eventually he changed the name, right? So the answer here is going to become A. Such are very factual questions, okay? So you have to be very cautious while solving these questions. Now please see this. This question is about Rowlatt Satyagraha. So you should know the history behind the Rowlatt Satyagraha, right? The Rowlatt Satyagraha, why this was created, or why this was began by Gandhiji. The reason was very clear. Rowlatt Act was based upon the recommendations of Sedition Committee. Okay, so Rowlatt Act was passed in India in early 1919 on the base of recommendation of Sedition Committee, and that is 100% correct. This was led by Sidney Rowlatt. The first statement is correct. And second, in this satyagraha, Gandhiji tried to utilize the Home Rule League. Yes, he tried to utilize the Home Rule League in 1919. But as all of you know, after this we have the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and that's why Gandhiji, he called off the satyagraha, and later on Hunter Committee was created by the government of India to look into the excesses which were created by the General Dyer during this time. However, no such punishment was given to General Dyer, and that's why it was criticized by all the leaders of India. Next, the third statement, demonstration against the arrival of Simon Commission coincided with Rowlatt Satyagraha. That doesn't make any sense. Simon Commission was appointed in 1927, and this is, we are talking about 1919, so there's a difference of around 8 years. It doesn't make any sense. The third statement is incorrect. So here the answer is going to become 1 and 2 only. Please remember the information, okay. Rowlatt Act was itself based upon the provisions of Defence of India Act of 1915, which was used during the First World War, right? And during the First World War, anybody could be arrested just on mere suspicion. The British wanted that we want such kind of laws to be used till eternity. That's why the Indian leaders were completely unhappy. They were thinking they will get self-government as per the declaration in 1917. But what did they get? They got Rowlatt Act. That shows that it was not good to have any trust in the British government. Next, the question in this one, the 1929 session. So what is this 1929 session known for, right? All of you know that this session is the session in which the Purna Swaraj was declared, right? In the session of 1928, Congress gave British 1 year that if you will not accept our Nehru report, then our overall agenda is going to shift from Swaraj to Purna Swaraj. This is the story, and in 1929, the British did not accept it. Purna Swaraj was declared, and then the first Independence Day was also celebrated on 26th of January 1930. So that's why here we have to identify the correct answer. The answer is B. Attainment of Purna Swaraj was adopted as the goal of the Congress. Okay, so the second statement is correct, or the B is the correct option, even though you should read all the other options also, okay, because if you will read all the chances of getting it wrong will be next to 0. All right, like see, non-cooperation was launched, no, nothing like that. Non-cooperation was in 1920. Decision to participate in round table conference, so that happened after the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, right, in 1931. So that is also not correct. D. First attainment of self-government was declared as the objective of the Congress. That was declared in 1906 with Dada Bhai Naroji. He was the leader at that point of time, or the president of the Congress. So the first statement is linked to that initial part. So easily you can reach to the answer. Please always read all the statement. That will give you a broader idea. Do not cram the answers of PYQs. It will not be useful. Exactly same question hardly comes. Okay, make sure you understand that. The people of India agitated against the arrival of Simon Commission. All of you know the famous slogan of "Go back, Simon." That was very prominent during the 1927-1928. What was the reason for this? Indians never wanted the review of the working of the Act of 1999. It's a very funny kind of a statement given by UPSC, that we were so happy, so blessed with this Act of 1919 that we never wanted that it should be reviewed. So that was not the condition, right? The first statement is incorrect. Simon Commission recommended abolition of diarchy in the provinces. This statement in itself is correct. Okay, in itself is correct, but is it linked to the question which is asked to us or posed to us? No, it again doesn't make any sense. There was no Indian member in the Simon Commission. The third statement is absolutely correct. It was led by Sir John Simon. 7 members were there. Okay, how many members were there? 7 members were there, and none of them were from India. So all the people from England were now going to come and see how the Indians are being ruled under the Act of 1919, and that was a national shame. It was a national shame, and that's why when we started the agitations, the Secretary of the State was Lord Birkenhead. Lord Birkenhead said that if Indians can make their own constitution, which would be accepted by all, then we will also accept such a constitution or such a report. That's why, as a challenge, Nehru Committee was appointed, and this Nehru Committee drafted and finally gave its report in 1928. And when this was not accepted by 1929, then the goal was changed to Purna Swaraj in 1929, and finally Gandhiji was given the authority to start a mass movement. Gandhiji first put forward his 11 demands in front of the government. When it was not accepted, then Gandhiji finally went for civil disobedience movement. This is how you have to remember. Okay, the pathway should be always remembered, the reasoning should be always remembered, because that makes it relatively very strong and you will never get it wrong. The Simon Commission suggested the partition of the country. The partition of the country was only given by one plan, and that is Mountbatten plan. Okay, even in the cabinet mission plan, the idea of Pakistan was not accepted. Only Mountbatten plan finally did the partition of India. So please remember any official offer, right, that came in the Mountbatten plan. So here the answer will become C. I'm discussing these extra things so that if anything such similar kind of question come in the exam, you can have the 360-degree of idea about it, and that's why it is going to be very helpful for you. Again, the question is on the Rowlatt Act. Okay, so what was the aim of this Rowlatt Act? Compulsory economic support to war efforts? No, the first one is not correct. Second, imprisonment without trial and summary procedures for trial. That is correct, right? Many procedures, they were changed, like the Indian Evidence Act, the way the evidence was required to be given to the judge, that was not required at all. You can just have a newspaper which is having something criticizing the government, and you can be put in the jail for 2 years. That's why this was a very draconian act, and that's why we begin with the Rowlatt Satyagraha. Suppression of the Khilafat movement, right? So it was not aimed at that. And third, imposition of restriction of the freedom of the press. The second statement is the most prominent one in this case. Next one, if you see Lahore session, again Lahore session of 1929. So this has been a one theme where UPSC is asking multiple questions. Please be aware about it. The Congress passed a resolution demanding complete independence. The first statement is absolutely correct. We have just discussed this. Second, the rift between the extremists and the moderate was resolved in that session. No, the rift was already resolved in 1916, the Lucknow session. So this has no bearing on this statement. So the second statement is incorrect. Third statement, a resolution was passed rejecting the two-nation theory in that session. Nothing of that sort was there. So only the first one is correct. And here, if they are asking about the correct statement, the answer will become A. Always look that if they're asking correct or they're asking incorrect, because that is going to decide the final marks. It's not about just you knowing everything. Following the instruction is equally important, and don't do these silly mistakes, because these silly mistakes can be very costly in such exam. Answer will become A. That is very easy. Next, now here they've asked with reference to Indian freedom struggle, which of the following were recommended by the Nehru report, right? So Nehru report has been a topic over which UPSC has created many questions. First, complete independence of India. No. Okay, as we have discussed just before this, Nehru committee or Nehru report was just asking for dominion status, and when this was not accepted by 1929, then the whole agenda was changed to complete independence. The first statement is incorrect. Second, joint electorate for reservation of seats for minority. Second statement is correct. In fact, initially even Jinnah was happy that there should be joint electorate. However, later on he shifted his stance and he went for the separate electorate, and eventually the Muslim League rejected this Nehru report and Jinnah came out with 14 points. That's why the second statement is correct. Third, provision of fundamental right, that is also there, right? That's why it is known as a mini constitution. So in this question they are asking for the correct answer. The 2 and 3 are correct. Answer will become B. The first one is incorrect because it was dominion state, it was not complete independence. Next question, if you see, it is from the Cripps mission, right? So what we have done in every theme, we have put the question which has come the latest first, usko sabse aage rakha hai, theek hai? So please remember that. The proposals of Cripps mission. So Cripps mission, all of you know, when did the Cripps mission came? Cripps mission came in 1942. Why did it came? Because Japan has joined the war. In 1941, it captured Southeast Asia. It was coming towards India. There was a pressure on the British to negotiate with the Indians, and the pressure was also being put by the other major powers like USA, USSR, and even China wanted that. That's why Cripps mission came to India. Winston Churchill never wanted this mission to succeed because he was never the kind of a person who would leave empire. Okay, he would not have left the territory of India had he been the prime minister, right? Even later on he would have done everything. But anyway, first statement, the Constituent Assembly would have members nominated by the Provincial Assembly as well as the princely states. So this statement is partially correct. Nomination was there in the princely state, but in the Provincial Assembly it was the system of election with proportional representation. The first statement is incorrect, right? On that basis. Second statement, if you see, any province which is not prepared to accept the new constitution would have the right to sign a separate agreement with Britain regarding its future status. That is correct. In fact, this was the worst provision which could have been part of Cripps mission. There are so many princely states, okay, there were so many provinces. If the British would have signed different agreement, then the idea of whole India could have been devastated. That's why Congress immediately rejected this plan, and the second statement is correct. In this case, the answer would become E. Okay, so please remember, these are the kind of questions which can come again also. 8th of August 1942, what is this known for? All of you know it is Quit India Resolution. Okay, the Viceroy's Executive Council was expanded to include more Indians. So this was done as per the August offer. August offer came in 1940. That had given a kind of a idea to the Indians that if you support us, then we will increase more people in our Executive Council. So that Viceroy's Executive Council was expanded in 1941. The Congress Ministry resigned, that is in 1939. Cripps proposed an Indian Union with full dominion status once the second, so that was not done at this. The Cripps mission had already come in the March, right? And plus this the whole idea of the initial times. Here the answer will become A, Quit India Resolution. Next, Shah Nawaz Khan, Prem Kumar Sehgal and Gurbaksh Dhillon are remembered. So all of you know that just after the end of the First World War, the INA, all those people who were under the leadership of Subhash Chandra Bose, who tried to come out to the area of Myanmar towards India, they were tried. So these INA trials, the first trial had these three officers. They were the officers of Indian National Army. So in this case, the answer is going to become D. Okay, the answer will become D. Next, Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Gandhi-Irwin Pact, UPSC has asked many questions, sometimes in CAPF, sometimes in CDS, and even in our civil services. So please see the questions. Okay. First, invitation to Congress to participate in the roundtable conference. Yes, they participated in the second roundtable conference. First was boycotted by the Congress, so was the third. But the second they attended because of this Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Second, Withdrawal of ordinances promulgated in connection with the civil disobedience movement. So that second was also correct. Third, acceptance of Gandhi's suggestion for inquiry into police excesses. Now this was the area which was not accepted by the British, right? Gandhiji gave this as a proposal that whatever excesses has been done by the police, they should be taken into consideration. But as such, we do not see any kind of acceptance by the British. In fact, two things were not accepted. One was the any kind of inquiry into police excesses, and second, commutation of the death sentence of Bhagat Singh and his comrades. The third one is incorrect. Fourth, release of only those prisoners who are not charged with violence. That is also correct. The first, second and fourth, they are correct in this case. The answer will become P in this question. Next, with reference to the British colonial rule in India, consider the following statement. Like G number 1, Mahatma Gandhi was instrumental in the abolition of system of indentured labor, right? So this statement is correct. He even led a campaign against this in South Africa. After coming to India, he also tried that these kinds of systems should be done away with, which were trying to treat laborers as slaves, right? Mostly in the plantation industry. The first statement is correct. Second, Lord Chelmsford's War Conference, okay, Mahatma Gandhi did not support the resolution on recruiting Indians for World War. This is incorrect. Okay, even if you do not know the information, please remember during the First World War, moderate, extremist, Gandhiji, everybody was supporting British. The reason was that they thought that after the war, they're going to give us self-governance. But when nothing of that kind came, it eventually, they gave us Rowlatt Act, and we started the Satyagraha. Consequent upon the breaking of the Salt Law by the Indian people, the Indian National Congress was declared illegal by the colonial rulers. So that is also correct. The first and the third statement are correct. The second is incorrect because there was a support from this time, and this answer will become B. Sometimes just remember the trend. Even if you are not able to remember the specific information, if you remember the trend, yes, there was a support, right? And this support is going to be relatively less during the Second World War. Like Subhash Chandra Bose wanted to start a movement from the beginning. Gandhiji stopped him because he thought it was a just war, right? So we started individual satyagraha. But when Japan ended the war and when the Cripps mission was just showing take it or leave it attitude, finally what do we see? Finally we see the beginning of the Quit India movement. Here the question is very easy. We have to just put them in a chronological sequence. So mutiny in Royal Indian Navy, Feb 1946. Quit India movement, August 1942. Round Table Conference, again around 1930-31. So you can easily see 3, 2 and 1. So answer will become C in this case. These kind of questions, they can be easy like this, okay. Some questions can be relatively difficult also. We'll see, we have one question like that in the previous year question, and I'll tell you about it also. Okay. Next, please see Congress Socialist Party. The Congress Socialist Party, this was formed in 1934. The agenda was to bring in as much socialism as possible in the activities of Indian National Congress, and they were successful also. Like in 1936, Congress took the issue of the peasants in the phase 4 session. 1938, National Planning Committee was created, right? And they were the one who wanted the Quit India movement to be started in every part of India, irrespective of it being British India or the princely states. That's why they revolutionized the agenda of the Congress. It advocated the boycott of British goods, that is correct, and evasion of tax. Now this is not correct, okay, because this was working from within the Congress. So evasion of taxes is not something which they would do. Reason being, from 1937 to 1939, Congress itself was in power. So why would they say evasion of taxes? The first statement is incorrect. It wanted to establish the dictatorship of proletariat. The dictatorship of proletariat, this was the agenda of communist. Okay, so this was the idea of the second party, which is known as Communist Party of India. This was created in Central Asia in 1920, in India in 1925. Okay, and British banned this party in 1934, and it was allowed to refunction because from 1941 onwards, USSR and UK, they were fighting from the same team. That's why the ban was lifted later on. Anyway, the second statement is not linked to this. So first and second both are incorrect. It advocated separate electorate for minorities. No. So the third one is also incorrect. So here the answer is going to become D. Okay, in these kinds of questions, please keep faith in yourself. Okay, be very strong. Sometimes what happens, human nature is like this. At least some choice should be correct, and you would unnecessarily mark that. Alright, so answer would be D. In some questions, answer can be D, none. So please be very strong in these kinds of questions. Who of the following organized a march on the Tanjore coast to break the salt law in April 1930? This is a very straightforward question. Here the answer is going to become C. Rajgopalachari. B is the next. Okay, with reference to cabinet mission. So all of you know the cabinet mission, right? It came in 1946. It recommended a federal government. Number 1, correct. Yes, it was a federal government. Number 2, it enlarged the powers of the Indian courts. It has nothing to do with the Indian courts. It was about transfer of power. Everything was now going to be in the Indian hand. So the second statement is just an extrapolation by the UPSC, and many times it looks logical, but it doesn't make any sense. More Indians in Indian civil services. Now they were leaving India. Why would they come out with these kinds of provision? So those the statements are just extrapolation. They may look logical, but they have no bearing on this act. The answer is going to become A, 1 only. Please be very vigilant when such kind of statements are going to come, because they will look logical, and if you are in that lazy mindset, you will say, okay, it may be correct, but it is not going to be correct. In fact, it doesn't make any sense at all. So please be very, very vigilant when you read these kinds of questions and read the options. Radcliffe Committee, I hope all of you know. Okay, so Cyril Radcliffe, he was the chairman of this committee, and this committee was going to look after only one thing, that was delimit the boundaries between India and Pakistan. This is known as the Radcliffe line. Answer is C. One important fact which you can remember, that they announced their award on 17th of August. Pakistan became independent on 14th, India on 15th, and they gave it on 17th. Classic kind of British kind of attitude, not going to take responsibility for anything which happens. Next, the Quit India Movement was launched in response to, I hope this is a very easy question and you can easily come out with the answer. The answer is going to be Cripps proposals. Okay, the answer is going to be B. Few questions are very easy. Okay, so will not take much time. The Congress ministries resigned in 7 provinces in 1913. Why? There's only one thing, because there was, what was the reason? Reason was that Indians were not consulted, right? So see here, option number A, B, C. 1, Congress could not form ministry in other 4. That doesn't make any sense. Next, emergence of a left wing made the working of the ministries impossible. No. There were widespread communal disturbances in their provinces. The widespread communal disturbances, they happened only after the elections of 1946, not at this point of time. Here there is only one answer which is not given directly. The answer will be D. Okay. Next, so the following is not true about the Quit India Movement. This question is very difficult. Not correct. Not correct. Okay. It was a non-violent movement. So many would just pick it here itself, because lots of violence was there during the Quit India Movement, but still it was not stopped by Gandhiji. But anyway, here the more relevant answer given by UPSC is B. It was led by Mahatma Gandhi. Now, Mahatma Gandhi, he was in jail since the 8th of August itself, and by 9th of August, right, it was the local leaders who were leading the movement. That's why he was not a person who was leading the movement. He was a symbol of the unity of India. He was a symbol of our struggle against the British Raj, but he was not leading the movement of the Quit India. So he remained in jail till he came out because of ill health in 1944. It was a spontaneous movement, so correct. It did not attract the labor class in general, so that is also correct. First and second, there is always going to be a more confusion. In fact, there was some participation of labor class also. So that's why this is a very difficult kind of a question created by UPSC and very problematic. Usha Mehta, she was known for what? She was known for the Congress radio, right? The clandestine activities during the Quit India Movement. The answer will become E. Next, constitutional development. If we see, with reference to Indian history, the members of the Constituent Assembly from the provinces. All of you know from the provinces, what was the process? Okay, we have to see from the provinces. So as all of us know, They were elected by the Legislative Assembly. So let us see which one is correct. Directly elected by people of India, people, no, the first one is not. Nominated, no, they were not nominated. Elected by Provincial Legislative Assembly, this is correct. Selected by government for their expertise, no. The answer will become C. It is a very easy question. Next, administrative changes. So here we can see few questions. Montague-Chelmsford reforms recommended granting voting rights to all women above the age of 21. So nothing of that sort. Okay, very few of them. So the first statement is incorrect, right? This is correct. The full voting rights were given only after independence. Second, the Government of India Act 1935 gave women reserved seats in the legislature. This is correct. Okay, here the answer is going to become B, 2 or B. Next, it is about the Charter Act of 1813. The first statement, it broke the trade monopoly. Yes, the trade monopoly was broken. Only two things were left. One is the trade with China. Second is the tea trade. It asserted the sovereignty of British Crown over the Indian territories held by the company. That is correct. The revenues of the company were now controlled by the British Parliament. The revenues were controlled since the Pitt India Act of 1784 because Board of Control could give any kind of direction to the Court of Directors. So this was not done by this act. So here the answer is going to become A, 1 and 2. Okay, so these are the kind of statements which look okay, but they are like the Trojan horse. Okay, so please remember this. In the federation established by Government of India Act of 1935, residuary powers were given to Governor General. Okay, you can remember a table. 1935, residuary powers were given to Governor General. 1946, the Cabinet Mission Plan gave the residuary power to provinces, because they were trying to create relatively a weak center and strong provinces. But once the partition happened, all these residuary powers currently they reside with the center. This is a chart which you can remember. Okay, so here the answer is going to become B. Next, about diarchy. So all of you know diarchy. What was diarchy? So this was introduced at the level of provinces in 1919, the Montague-Chelmsford Act, and at the provincial level, the list was divided into two parts. One was the reserved. All the important subjects, they were in the reserved category, like law and order, police, etc. Right? And the transferred, they were those subjects which were largely the expenditure driven, which were not that much important for the British, like agriculture, like local self-governance. That's why you have to identify the idea. Division of central legislature into two houses, no. Introductions of double government, central and the state government, no. Then having two sets of rulers, one in London, one in Delhi. Division of subjects delegated to provinces in two categories. So the answer is D, that is reserved and transferred. Next, Butler Committee. Now this was a question. UPSC is now not asking too many of these committees, but थोड़ा बहुत इसका आप list बना सकते हैं. So please try to make few list. Okay. The Butler Committee defined the jurisdiction of the central and state government. Okay. Define the powers of the Secretary of the State. It's like the first statement, if you see, define the jurisdiction of central and provincial government. So this was done by the Act of 1919. It was not done by the Butler Committee. Number 2. Defines the powers of Secretary of State. It was done by the Government of India Act 1858. Number 3, impose censorship on the national press. No. The last one, improve the relationship between Government of India and the Indian states. The answer is D. Okay. Next, Montague-Chelmsford reform. This is the easiest question probably. Social, educational, or police reforms or constitutional reform. Under is D. Very easy. Next, Government of India Act 1919 clearly defined what? The jurisdiction of central and provincial government. So can you see the same statement has been used in 2015 and then in 2017. Sometimes when you remember, try to remember exact, because same kind of statement may reappear in the following years, and that is also applicable for the current year. Answer will become B in this case. Next, which of the following were the objects of Queen Victoria's proclamation? To disclaim any intention to annex the Indian state, correct. To place the Indian administration under the British Crown, that was done because the company was now scrapped, the company's rule. And number 3, to regulate the East India Company's trade with India. Now the company itself was now not having any control in India. So what was the need for the controlling of the trade? Third statement is incorrect. Answer will become A in this case. Albert Bill controversy, all of you know what was the Albert Bill controversy all about. Indian judges now could try the Europeans. So that's what it was all about. In this case, easily you can identify the answer number C. Removal of disqualification imposed on Indian magistrate with regard to trial of the European. Answer is C. Next, the Government of India Act 1919, introduction of diarchy in the executive government of the provinces. Okay, introduction of separate communal electorates for the Muslims. The second is incorrect, which is the Act of 1909. Third, devolution of legislative authority by the center to the provinces. The third one is also not that much. In this case, devolution of legislative authority to center to the provinces. That is correct because it's an outcome of the creation of the different budgets, different powers. So in this case, the answer is going to become C, 1 and 3. Next, distribution of power between center and state in the Indian Constitution. Okay, like we have been discussing about the Act of 1919, then we're discussing about the Act of 1935 also, and then we have our own Constitution by 1950. 1919 did define the jurisdiction, but it was finally refined in 1935 with the coming of provincial autonomy, etc. In this question, okay, do not get confused between B and C because they are asking about Indian Constitution, the powers between center and state, because 1935 came out with provincial autonomy. So here the answer is going to become C. Okay, just like today we have the autonomy at the level of the state. Next, purpose of Sir William Wedderburn and W.S. Kane had set up the Indian Parliamentary Committee. They formed this committee for what purpose? Because like William Wedderburn, he was also the president of the Congress in few occasions. So here the answer is going to become A, to agitate for Indian political reforms in the House of Commons in England. The rest of the option doesn't make much sense. Next, economic policies. Orang in charge of treasury of the state. The first statement is incorrect because orang is a word which means warehouse in Persian. The first one is incorrect. Panya, Indian agent to the East India Company, correct. Mirasida, designated revenue paid to the state. So this was there in the South India. Okay. The second and the third statement are correct, but even though a bit difficult one, but the answer is going to become B. Next, which of the following statement correctly explain the impact of the Industrial Revolution on India during the first half of the 19th century? Indian handicrafts were ruined, correct. Machines were introduced in the Indian textile. So Indian textile machines were not introduced in the first half, in the second half after 1853. Railway lines were laid, no, in second half. And heavy duties were imposed on the imports of British manufacturers, no. So the answer will become A. Please always read all options, okay. So the following plants were domesticated in the New World and introduced in the Old World. So please see, in India, which of the following have been from a long time? So cotton cannot be introduced by anyone else, right? On the basis of cotton, you can eliminate B and C, and wheat is also there from a long time. So we are left with tobacco, cocoa, and rubber. So the answer is going to become A. Next, economically, one of the results of British rule in India in the 19th century was increase in export, growth in number of Indian-owned factories, commercialization of Indian agriculture. C makes sense. Okay, they are making very close options. They're using the information to make it difficult for you. So please make sure you read the options carefully. In this case, the answer is going to become C. Next, the staple commodities, okay, which were exported by the British from Bengal. So what did we export from Bengal in the 18th century, right? So that first we need to understand. Oil seeds, no. Okay. Second, if you see here, zinc, we do not have even till today. Silver and gold, no. We received silver and gold. So in such kind of options, you can always go for elimination, and you should be having that information of geography, the resources also. Cotton, silk, saltpeter, and opium. D would be the answer. It can be easily brought with the help of elimination. Now, which of the following were linked to the Rayatwari system? The first system was permanent settlement 1793, second was Rayatwari 1820, the third one it was Mahalwari 1822. So, which of the following were linked to Rayatwari? Alexander Reed, he was linked to this because he did some kind of experiments in South India from 1790s on itself. Thomas Munro was the one who introduced the system properly in 1820 in the area of Madras, and then later in Bombay in 1825. Answer here will become C. Cornwallis was linked to only one system, and that was permanent settlement. Okay. Next, Trade Dispute Act of 1929. Now, this is one of the act against which the Indian revolutionary, including Bhagat Singh, they threw a bomb in the Central Assembly. What was this act all about? This act was nothing but it was trying to create a system of tribunals and a ban on strikes. So no longer any trade union which create a strike specifically in the area in the factories which are responsible for the essentials one, right? Like you cannot have any strike in the electricity department. The first statement, see here, participation of workers in the management of industries. This was already done by the Trade Act of the 1926 itself. 1929 Act. This was the act which was trying to restrict the activities of the communists, and these communists were now becoming the leader of these trade unions. The answer here will become D. Next, again, the Factory Act of 1880 was passed with a view to fix the wages of industrial workers and to allow workers to form trade unions. No, trade unions were done, as I've told you, by 1926, not at this point of time. So, and neither they gave any kind of fixed wage. Second, N.M. Lokhande was a pioneer in organizing the labor movement in British India. 100% correct. Okay, so the answer here will become B. Okay, this is a good question. Please remember this. Who were the following were the economic critics? So economic critique, all of you know, this was a trend of the people who came out with their understanding of the British colonialism and then made them realize that you are responsible for our poverty and you are responsible for our underdevelopment. Dadabhai Naoroji, 100%. Archidath, yes. Subramanya Iyer was also linked to this. So here the answer will become D. And in fact, UPSC has not given an option of 1 and 3. They wanted to make it relatively easy for you, right? That's why here the answer is going to become, if you see overall, D, 1, 2 and 3. Next, Rayatwari settlement. What are the features of Rayatwari settlement over which the UPSC has asked question? Like number 1, rent was paid directly by the peasant to government. Correct. The government gave pattas to rails. Yes, they had given the letters on which it was mentioned specifically how much revenue you have to pay to us. Number 3, land was surveyed and assessed before being taxed. That, yes, survey was also there, but these surveys were not correct, and often it was just like a guesswork. So that's why the revenue which was collected from the peasantry, it was always on the higher side. So that's why even in this question the answer will be C, but please know the working of the act also. Okay, then consider the following statement. What was the contribution of Dadabhai Naoroji? Expose the economic exploitation of India by the British. First statement is correct. Interpreted the ancient index. No, he was not linked to that. It was Raja Ram Mohan Roy. That's the need for eradication of all social evil. That was also not there. So answer here will become A. Next, which of the following things were introduced into India by the English for the first time? Right. Number 1, assessment of land revenue on the basis of nature of soil and quality of crops. No, it was not done. Right. It was done in different parts of India. Like Akbar was responsible for this during the Mughal Empire. Number 2, mobile cannons in warfare. No, it was used during the medieval era, right? Number 3, cultivation of tobacco and red chili. So this was brought in by the Portuguese, which all of us know. It was not the British. So here the answer is going to become none, because none of them were introduced by the English. Then why did we see an increased tendency of litigation? Okay, once we see the beginning of the permanent settlement by Lord Cornwallis. The reason was because he has reduced the overall fee to enter to the courts. So if you see the statements, making Zamindar's position stronger, no. Making East India Company an overlord of Zamindar, no, that is not also correct, right? But making judicial system more efficient, no. None of the above, right? So answer will be D, because he had reduced the court fee. Now they've asked a question about home charges, right? What were the home charges? Home charges was the expenditure which was done on behalf of Government of India in London. That is what is known as home charges. In this case, please see that funds were used to support the Indian office in London, correct? Funds used to pay salaries and pension of the British personnel engaged in India, that is also correct. Funds used for waging war outside India by the British. Third statement is it was there, okay, but it was part of drain of wealth. It was not classified as home charge, okay. So please remember that. So here the answer will become B, 1 and 2. Then on education they have asked few questions. Let us take them very quickly. Number 1 question, who was the secretary of Hindu female school, okay, which was also known as the Bethune school? It is very easy. Answer would Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. He is there. Next, Wellesley established the Fort William College at Calcutta because D is the answer. He wanted to train British civilians for administrative purposes in India, right? That is correct. Later on, the Court of Directors reversed his decision and this college was called off, and later it was found in London. Next, regarding Wood's dispatch, which of the following are correct? Number 1, grants in aid system was introduced, correct. Establishment of universities was recommended on the model of London University. So that is also correct. Then English as a medium of instruction at all levels of education was recommended. Third statement is incorrect because at the local level it was vernacular, at secondary and tertiary level it was English. So here the answer is going to become A, 1 and 2. Next, introduction of English education in India is linked to which of the following? Charter Act of 1813, yes, 1 lakh rupees was given for that purpose, promotion of learning. General Committee of Public Instruction, that is also correct. And third, Anglicist Orientalist controversy. So Anglicist Orientalist controversy was nothing. This was the division of this committee which was formed in 1823 into two parts. Orientalists wanted the promotion of Indian subjects in vernacular languages, while the Anglicists, what they wanted that the English language should be there and that too the study should be of Western sciences. So this is the division. Finally, Lord Macaulay, he was the one who became the chairman of this committee and he was responsible for the final details that came in 1835. So here the answer is going to become D, 1, 2 and 3. Educational institution and their founders. Sanskrit College at Banaras, William Jones, no. William Jones is linked to Asiatic Society. There's Jonathan Duncan who is linked to Sanskrit College. Calcutta Madrasa, Warren Hastings, correct. Fort William College, Arthur Wellesley. Now please see the options here, right? First one, as we have discussed, is incorrect. So 1, A and C will not be answered. The answer would be either B or D. And B is correct, right? 2 only. So in D, it is not Arthur Wellesley, it is Richard Wellesley. The name of governor was Richard. Arthur was a military commander. So here the answer is going to become B. So please remember in such kind of questions, okay? With reference to Madanapale of Andhra Pradesh, which of the following statement is correct? So which of the following statement is correct? So you have to remember itself because it was not an easy question. This was the place where Rabindranath translated national anthem from Bengali to English. So answer would be C in this case. Next, songs from prison. Now they are linked to Gandhiji. It was not easy because when such kind of questions comes, they are not from the direct books. They are just like the KBC, right? Even though they are an important part of India's national struggle, but they are not in the basic books. Like this question of Deshar Katha, which was written by the Sakharam Ganesh Devskar, that it warned against colonial states' hypnotic conquest of mind, correct. It inspired the performance of Swadeshi street plays and folk song, correct. He used the word of the use Desh was in the context of Bengal. No, it was in the context of the whole of India. He was from Maharashtra. He is located to Bengal, but the answer is about whole of India. Here the answer would be A and B. Then Vithal Vidhanchak. So this is the monthly journal which was linked with untouchable people, which was the target audience and published by Gopal Baba Valankar. So the answer is A. Okay. Next, on the left side they have the movement, right side you have the leader, like All India Anti-Untouchability League. It was led by Mahatma Gandhi, correct. Kisan Sabha led by Shahajan Saraswati, correct. Self-respect movement linked with Ramaswamy Naika. This is also correct. Answer would be D. Please remember, such kind of questions are very fact-oriented. If you will not remember the facts, such question will be beyond your reach, and we do not want such a scenario in the final examination. Again, person and position. Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru, President of All India Liberal Federation, correct. K.C. Neogi linked to the member of Constituent Assembly, yes. P.C. Joshi was Secretary of Communist Party. All three are correct. Answer would be again D. Then who was the following among the following who read the biographies of, or who even wrote the biography of Mazzini, Garibaldi, Shivaji, Sri Krishna, stayed in America and was elected to Central Assembly? Answer here is only one, Lala Lajpat Rai, C. Then which of the event, now this is a difficult question, which of the following event happened the first, right? We had seen questions where they ask about the chronology, but here it will not be that easy because you have to yourself understand. Swami Dayananda Saraswati established Arya Samaj 1875. Dinbandhu Mitra wrote Neel Darpan, right? So Neel Darpan, it is linked to Indigo Rebellion. So you can just use your mind and think that yes, it is going to be roughly around 1860. Third, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay wrote Anand Mad. It was in 1882, and this is having the song Vande Mataram. And Satyendranath Tagore became the first Indian to succeed in the Indian Civil Services examination. Yes, he did, and it was in 1863. So out of all this, okay, B and D are very close by. The answer here will become B. It was a difficult question because you have to remember things as it is. Again, the same kind of question. Radhakanta Dev, first president of British Indian Association, correct. Gazulu Lakshmi Narasu Chetty, founder of Madras Native Association, hai, not Madras Mahajan Sabha. So second is incorrect. And Sundarnath Banerjee linked with Indian Association, correct. Answer here will become 1 and 3. Next, The first woman president of Indian National Congress was Sarojini Naidu. First Indian woman was Sarojini Naidu. First woman, she was Annie Besant. So first statement is incorrect. Second, first Muslim president was Badruddin Tayebji. Correct. Answer will be B. Next, it is about Annie Besant. She was responsible for starting the Home Rule movement. That is correct. Founder of Theosophical Society. Second statement is not correct. She was not the founder of Theosophical Society. She joined it in 1893. Right? The one which is responsible for was Madame Blavatsky and H.C. Olcott. Was the president of Indian National Congress? Yes, 1917, and that's why she was the first woman. Answer here will become C, 1 and 3. Next, again, which was the following was established by B.R. Ambedkar? Peasants and Workers Party of India? No, it was not by him, right? Next, All India Scheduled Caste Federation? Yes. Independent Labour Party? Correct. The first one, it was established by Tulsidas Jadhav, Keshavrao Jadhav. These were the people responsible for that. Then Mahatma Gandhi undertook fast new death in 1932. Why? Why fast new death? Because of the separate electorate which was given in the communal award. So answer will become C. Ramsay MacDonald gave the communal award which was giving separate electorate to the Dalits. Right? So these are the questions which we are required to discuss, and we have discussed them with ultra level of efficiency, and we have also ensured that you understand the reasoning part also. In the first 40-45 minutes, my focus was more on the reasoning part, and second part I've just focused more on the information. So please focus on the reasoning. This is my humble request that use these PYQs not just for the sake of cramming answers. That is not going to work. What is going to work, in fact, is that you can easily fetch more marks if you use the whole process. The whole process includes, number 1, remembering the information. Number 2, reprocessing the information. How? If a question has been asked on Munda rebellion, just think the same question can on Santhal rebellion also. That's very important, right? And number 3, whichever questions you feel like that you do not have the sufficient knowledge, you can just remember that information for the examination, because if the question will come, you can eliminate. Plus, read the questions very carefully. Focus on these aspects. Even if you do this much, I think you can get a very good score. So this is the first of the series of lectures which are coming on the YouTube. I come up with one lecture on ancient, one on medieval, and one on art and culture. So stay tuned. This is as per your request. Thank you so much, and continue watching these videos so that you can score maximum marks in prelims 2025. Thank you so much.